What's up, everybody? How's it going? I hope you guys are all doing well tonight. I hope you like that new little countdown timer. I threw that together a couple days ago, and I really like it. And that was the first time ever using it. So that was that was the little surprise I was talking about. Um, but yeah, so thank you for everybody for coming. This is going to be a fairly quick one. Um, as a lot of you know, I've been pretty busy lately, and I have my last final tomorrow morning. But I just wanted to push this out there really quickly because I'm not going to have too much time to stream afterwards when I go on vacation. So I'm just going to get this information out there and let you all kind of digest it if you want. So let's go into the chat a little bit, and then we will get into it. Jawa, you are first. Congratulations, my man. Good to see you. Mudhog, also great to see you. Cutie Crypto, always a pleasure to see you in the house. I'm glad you can make it. Crypto Vince, I don't think I've seen you in here before, man. Glad to have you. Oh, and we got RH Max as well. What is up, my man? So yeah, we got some regulars, we got some newcomers, got some OGs. It's a nice little crowd to be talking to tonight. So I appreciate it. Go ahead and before we start, go ahead, like the video. If you could share it, that'd be great. Get a couple extra people in here live and have a nice little conversation about the topic today. But yeah, so today we are talking about IcosaHedron arbitrage opportunity. Thanks, Max. I appreciate that, man. You've been blowing up yourself recently, which has been awesome to see. Um, but yeah, so we're talking about the icosahedron arbitrage opportunities that exist within both the Hedron code as well as the future Icosa code. And I think there are some really cool ways that these different tokens interact and how different price ratios, if they're reached, how they can kind of cause positive feedback loops down the line for the benefit of both Hedron, Icosa, and Hex, which I think is pretty cool and one of the main reasons why I really like this system, this coin. Let's see. I'm gonna throw this ticker down here. I haven't done this before. StreamYard can do some cool stuff. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, icosahedron arbitrage opportunities. Oh, and then also, I'm going to be going over not just the arbitrage in the Icosa system, but also some of the basic Hedron arbitrage opportunities that were talked about independent of Icosa. So I'm going to give a nice overview of all the different price ratios that are important to keep track of in this system, and it shouldn't take too long. So yeah, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So the very first one is looking at advanceable hedron versus stake cost. No face tonight, man. Sorry, Jawar. bad hair day, bad hair day, and a bad room day. But let's see, advanceable hedron versus the stake cost. So yeah, we're looking at the dollar value of the amount of hedron you can take an advance on for an HSI. And if that dollar value is higher than the cost to make an HSI, then there's an arbitrage opportunity there that can immediately be taken care of to profit. And this is kind of how it would work. So you would buy hex and make an HSI, and then what this would do is, sorry, you buy a hex and make an HSI, you take an advance on that HSI with your hedron, and then you sell that hedron on the market, and then you profit. And that's because this advanceable hedron is more than it was to buy this hex and make the HSI. Now, there are a couple things that this does. First, this is going to decrease the hedron price. If you're selling hedron, the price goes down, obviously. But also, kind of consequentially from the advanceable hedron part, that HSI that you made now gets put on the liquidation market. And so when that happens in 90 days, eventually that hedron gets burned. And this results in the indirect pumping of the hedron price. Now, just because this HSI gets taken advance upon doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to end up on the liquidation market. It is possible for this person to take their profits, buy back the hedron that they needed to pay off their advance, and now they have an HSI plus a little bit of profit. That is possible. But a lot of people, or at least it's reasonable to assume, in my opinion, that they're just going to take all of this profit and kind of run with it. And so if they do that and they don't really care about their HSI anymore, that's what leads to this kind of side chain of events that can lead to the indirect hedron pumping. And now what's really cool is that, the amount of hedron that was advanced upon here at this HSI, um, that's the amount of cell pressure that gets released into the system to decrease the hedron price. But if that HSI ends up on the liquidation market, this advanced number is the starting bid for the hedron for that HSI. And so since it's an auction and people will consequentially bid higher and higher, or more and more amounts of hedron on top of that base rate, which is this advanceable hedron, well, what's going to happen is more hedron is going to be burned than the amount of cell pressure that was introduced in the system if this arbitrage opportunity is hit. So, if the price of hedron gets to a certain point where you can take an advance, and then that hedron that you can advance upon is now worth more than the amount it costs to make the stake, it's going to both yeah. One thing I forgot to add is it also pumps the hex price too, because you're buying hex off the market. So it pumps the hex price, and then it also indirectly pumps the hedron price, even though there's some initial hedron cell pressure. And this is kind of the main arbitrage opportunity that was native to the hedron system that we're all kind of watching out for to see if it ever occurs. Now, the next one is the value of hedron to liquidate a stake. So the stake cost versus the hedron to liquidate the stake. And kind of the arbitrage here comes when the dollar value of that hedron to liquidate the stake is less than the cost to make it HSI. And so this arbitrage opportunity, it's a little less of arbitrage by the strict definition, where like you're ending up with profit at the end. And it's more like an efficient use of capital, where if you're looking to buy a hex stake and you can get it cheaper from buying hedron off of the market and then using that to bid on an HSI that's being liquidated, then that's kind of the flow of where money would go. Just because it's the path of least resistance and it's the most capital efficient. You're getting hex stakes for cheap. And this is also kind of the main driving force, or one of the main appeals of the hedron system, the potential to get HSIs for cheaper. And so this is how that would look. Very easy. You just go ahead and buy or mint your hedron, depending on how much mintable hedron you have. And then you would go and liquidate the HSI. And then now, congratulations, you've gotten a cheap HSI, a cheap hex stake, versus if you would just buy hex and stake it on the market. Buy hex off the market and stake it natively. Now, what's cool about this, well, not cool, but one thing to keep in mind about this opportunity is that you're not necessarily guaranteed to get this ratio if that's what you see on the Icosa, on the hedron.pro website, because it is an auction. So people can continue to bid it up until this arbitrage point or this ratio is no longer favorable, and it's just the same as buying it off the market. So it's not as much of a guarantee if you see this on the liquidation market, but it's good to keep in mind, especially on day 91 of when Icosa launches, where potentially there could be a lot of HSIs on the market and it would be hard for everybody to keep track of every single price. So you may be able to snag up some cheap ones there. But let's see. So yeah, so this is kind of some of the after effects of this arbitrage opportunity. So when you buy hedron, this is just when you buy it, not when you mint it, you're going to increase the hedron price. But then also when you liquidate your HSI, hedron is burned. So both of these actions lead into the price of hedron being pushed towards going higher. Of course, if you just mint the hedron, then the only price positive effect that's happening is that hedron being burned. But as we know, mintable hedron that never hits the market doesn't affect the price and can't be used to sell down the price later. So while it might not be great for price immediately, long term and cumulatively, if this kind of opportunity presents itself long enough and with a great enough magnitude, then it can allow for less dumps down in the future. There's something to keep in mind. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So this one has to do with the hedron versus Icosa mintable. And so this is similar to the last one, except now with the Icosa system, not only do we have to keep in mind the value of these HSIs in terms of how much it would cost to make the stake using hex off the market. But we also have to keep in mind the amount of Icosa that's mintable from that HSI, because there are now two ways to extract value from these HSIs, both from finishing it out, as well as both from selling it, finishing it out, and from minting Icosa, and then just selling that Icosa on the market. So this is another price ratio to look out for when you're evaluating HSIs on the liquidation market. So the way this one would look is that you would go ahead, buy or mint your Hedron, liquidate that HSI, sell the HSI to the Icosa contract, and then you would sell that Icosa on the market and get your profit. And if you really wanted to, you could buy back some of that Hedron that you use and then just stick with your the delta or just the pure profit. And just like before, this one also has a couple cool after effects. And so just the same before, buying the Hedron increases the price. And then when you liquidate your HSI, or not, yeah, when you liquidate the HSI, the stuff that you did gets burned. But also that HSI, since you're selling it to the Icosa contract, goes back on the liquidation market, guaranteed. And both of these lead to Hedron being burned, increasing the Hedron price, or at least pushing, creating an environment where it's easier for the Hedron price to pump by reducing future sell pressure. And then, of course, if you're going to sell this Icosa, then there's going to be a decreased Icosa price. And that's just the way it works for the ratio to equilibrate back to normal. Yeah, I hope that's making sense. Let's keep going. I'll say hi to a couple people in the chat. Hydrology 101, good to see you. Oh, man, how do you even pronounce this? Academaciated. Evening to you too. Mango Junkie, great to see you. Let's see. Oh, Ari Smash got to answer a quick question. What's the get rich strategy with Icosa? Buy Hedron, make HSIs for Icosa, and hodl Icosa. I'll talk about that a little bit at the end, right after I get through my slides. I'll give you a little sneak peek into some of my thoughts and some of the conversations I've been having. But for now, let's keep going. We'll save that one for the end, so you guys got to stick around to the very end to find out, or at least watch it on the replay. But let's see what's next. Okay. So everything we talked about up until this point has mostly been focused around arbitrage opportunities within just the Hedron system. And then that last little ratio that we looked at touched into the Icosa system. But this right here, the ratio between the spot price of Icosa versus the amount of money it takes to get an Icosa via making an HSI, this is the main arbitrage opportunity or main price ratio to keep in mind for a potential of an arbitrage opportunity in the Icosa system. And it's the main new ratio or arbitrage opportunity that, if it's hit, will create another price positive feedback loop. And I'll demonstrate a little bit of that in a minute. But with looking at the Icosa spot price versus the price to make an HSI, there are three possibilities, just kind of like with anything. When you're comparing prices, the Icosa spot price can either be greater than, less than, or equal to the Icosa from getting it from an HSI. And we're going to go through each of these scenarios and kind of see what that means, both for the price of Icosa, Hedron, and a little bit of what that means for the price of Hex. Okay. All right. So first one, if the Icosa spot price is greater than the Icosa price from an HSI, and this is the main arbitrage opportunity within the system that, if it's hit, really gets the ball rolling in terms of price appreciation for all the coins within the system. And so if this ratio were to hit in this fashion, you would be able to buy Hex and make an HSI, sell that HSI to the Icosa contract. You would get Icosa, and then you would sell that Icosa for a profit. And so now essentially what you've done is you've closed this arbitrage opportunity by taking Hex, staking it presumably for 555, because that's how you get the most Icosa mintable, as well as an extra 10% bonus. And then you're taking that Icosa and pulling your profit. Now, of course, if you really wanted to, you could go buy back the Hex, or you could buy back any Icosa to keep the coins that you wanted, or you can just keep all of the profit. Now, one cool thing about this is that this increases the hex price because you're buying hex directly off the market to take advantage of this opportunity. And so this is a really nice kind of background pumpamental on top of the pumpamentals of hex that already exist. And then finally, next, if you sell the Icosa, obviously the Icosa price decreases. So the hex price increases, which means the price to get Icosa from an HSI starts to increase, and then the Icosa price is decreasing. And so the magnitude of this arbitrage opportunity is being closed from both angles, both from the hex price as well as the Icosa price. So it'll probably close pretty quickly. But when the opportunity is there, it's like a little bit of a money printer, which is pretty cool. And then finally, another consequence of this opportunity is that all of these HSIs that are being sold to get that Icosa are going on the liquidation market. And then in 90 days, that Hedron gets burnt. And then finally, of course, with this Hedron burnt, we get indirect Hedron price pumping by mitigating future sell pressure. And so, yeah, so this arbitrage opportunity right here really both increases the hex price and indirectly pumps the Hedron price. And it does that obviously at the cost of its own price chart. However, if you own all three of these tokens, well, then two of the three are doing well while the other one's retracing a little bit. But presumably, if we've hit this arbitrage opportunity, it's already gone up quite a bit. So I'd say you're doing pretty well, even though the Icosa price might be going down a little bit in this scenario, of course. All right. So let's look at the next part, the next possibilities. And this is when the Icosa spot price is less than the Icosa from the HSI. And in this case, it's just better to buy Icosa off the market because if you're buying Hex, staking it, and then selling your HSI, you're getting less Icosa than if you just took those dollars and you just bought it off the market. And for this, it's really simple. And again, just like before, it's not really an arbitrage opportunity because you're not getting profit or capital at the end. You're just efficiently using your capital to get the most coins possible. And so what that means is that this assumes that people want to obtain Icosa. So this price pumping that happens if this occurs would only happen if there are people who actually want Icosa in the first place, versus the other one here where it's inherent into the system for people to go buy and take advantage of this because they're pulling profit immediately. This one is not exactly that. It's more for those who want to participate in the system. Their best deal is to take their economic energy and put it into the price of Icosa to push the price up. And so this instead of so let me take a step back. So in this situation, you have two people participating in this. You have the people who want Icosa to stake, people who want to participate in the system, but you also have people who just want profit. They just want to take advantage of the profit. They don't really care about Icosa, and they don't really care about staking it at all. So you have those two kind of peoples in this arbitrage scenario. In this one, you only have the former. However, these people who want to participate in the Icosa system, before their economic energy was going into buying Hex and making HSIs. Now, all of that economic energy is moving straight into the market and pumping that price, which is pretty cool. So you have the entirety of that economic energy going into helping bolster the Icosa price until it at least equilibrates with the price of getting it from an HSI. Now, there's more we could talk about here, but I think I'm going to save that for a later stream because it's a little bit outside the scope of arbitrage. But yeah, I'll let you guys think on that for a little bit. And then finally, if the Icosa spot price is equal to Icosa from HSI, there's no arbitrage opportunity. You can buy it off the market. You can buy Hex and send it to the smart contract if you want. All's right with the world. There's no wrong answers. But if you wanted to do, help everybody out, help the entire system out, pay a couple extra gas fees and go ahead and send your HSI to the liquidation market, we would all appreciate it. And I'm sure your Hedron bags would appreciate it too. And your Icosa bags, because you're going to be helping burn more Hedron to get more Icosa for your stakes. Let's see. So yeah, I believe that is it. Yes. So here, I just went ahead and plotted all of this out into a nice little flow chart that kind of shows how everything works together and feeds off of each other. And this is just with the Icosa spot price versus the Icosa price from getting it from an HSI. So let's start here with that actual arbitrage opportunity. So the dollar value of Icosa off the market is more than the Icosa getting it from an HSI. Like we said before, buy hex off the market, stake it, sell it, profit. Sell the Icosa, and then you profit. And so then two things happen, which we discussed. The hex price increases, and then the Icosa price decreases. And so when the price of hex increases, the cost to get Icosa from an HSI increases, and that'll equilibrate the two prices. And then if it's strong enough, it'll lead the dollar value of Icosa to be less than that of the HSI. And then as well as if that's compounded with a decreased price of the Icosa, that could either equilibrate it or it can bring it down and bring it below that equilibrium point. And at that point, people buy Icosa off the market. The Icosa price increases and it either just sits and equilibrates, or it goes up and it hits that arbitration point again to restart the cycle. So basically, unless the price is sitting 1-for-1 with the spot value versus the HSI value, it's being pushed in either direction. It's being pushed back to this equilibrium price. And if it overshoots or undershoots, the system incentivizes pushing it towards the other direction, which I think is pretty cool. And then, of course, there is one other thing to keep in mind, and that's how this affects the Hedron system right here. So when we take advantage of this arbitrage opportunity, and then we're taking that HSIs and we're selling it to the smart contract, well, more HSIs are getting put on the liquidation market. Hedron is being burned. We're indirectly pumping the Hedron price. And now, if this scenario, if there's enough economic mass from this arbitrage opportunity, and that is burning enough Hedron and allowing the price to go high enough, and it's doing it faster than this the hex price is increasing, well, then it's possible that the price of Hedron hits its arbitrage opportunity, where now the advanceable Hedron is greater than the dollar value of the HSI. And now we have kind of a double positive feedback loop going, or a double arbitrage opportunity, where both there's the Icosa arbitrage that pushes the advanceable Hedron arbitrage, and then this is just a positive feedback loop that kind of allows the system to continue pushing it more HSIs on the market, on the liquidation market, to burn more Hedron, which will kind of help increase the price, giving you this arbitrage opportunity, and then putting more HSIs on the market to take advantage of the arbitrage opportunity. But yeah, that is everything, guys. That is all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's see. Yeah, 23 minutes. I think that's a solid amount of time. I'll stick around a little bit more if you guys have questions. And then, of course, I have that question that RH Max asked. So I'll get into that right now. Let's see what he said. So what is the get-rich strategy with Icosa? Buy Hedron, make HSIs for Icosa, and hodl Icosa? First, go ahead, drop more questions in the chat. I'll stick around for a couple minutes and just hang out and talk with you guys. But Max, so with Icosa, something really interesting. The system exists in a really interesting state those first 30 days. And that's because the only place where it is possible to get Icosa from is by sending HSIs to the liquidation market. The reason why that's the case is because there's a minimum stake length for even if you stake one Hedron to get Icosa from your staking rewards, you have to wait at least 30 days to not incur any penalties. So, for example, whales, when they stake a bunch, or they're going to have 360 days, a minimum, and they're the ones who are going to be getting the most Icosa from the yield, from their Hedron staking yield. But that stuff is locked up for a long time. And so, really, the sell pressure in the first 30 days is very, very low, because anybody who actually wants Icosa has to put skin in the game, either buying it off the market or sending an HSI to the smart contract. Now, keeping that in mind, where are you going to get Icosa off the market? Because in order for there to be a market for Icosa, the liquidity providers themselves need to send HSIs to the smart contract in order to get the Icosa to pair it with another coin to allow us to provide liquidity. And so even if that first price that is decided by the liquidity provider is vastly lower than the amount of Icosa, of the amount of Icosa you could get from the HSI. So like you could get it for a penny off the market, or you can get it for $1 per Icosa token if you send your HSIs to the liquidation market. Well, because that liquidity provider had to get that Icosa from an HSI, they're essentially selling their stuff at a loss, and it's an opportunity for you to get cheap Icosa where you would have otherwise had to go to the HSI market, to the HSI market via the smart contract buyback to get it in the first place. And so there's a really interesting opportunity in those first 30 days where no matter where the price is set, and if the yield is high enough for the Icosa pool, because the only people putting Icosa in the pool are people getting it from these HSIs or off the market, which had to come from HSIs. If that yield is high enough, it may just skyrocket the price up to whatever that arbitrage point is, just because that's just what the value of Icosa is at the beginning, because it's the only way to get it. Now, this is a very long and tangential way to get to your question with what's the get rich strategy here, and that's because you have two options. You can immediately get Icosa by sending an HSI to the liquidation market, and you're just kind of locking in your price, whatever that price would be. But you're taking a risk for what if somebody provided liquidity and it was like 1/10 of the price that you paid for, or 1/100th of the price you paid for. Why they would do that, I don't know, but that's a possibility. And so now you would have the opportunity, instead of the money you used to buy Hex to stake it to send the HSI to the contract, you could have just bought it off the market and got more Icosa. And so, but if you waited with all your cash for somebody to provide liquidity, you could be missing out on yield. You could be missing out on yield. And so there's a give and take there. And so when I think about the strategy, especially day one, I would play it on both sides. I would have an HSI or a couple of HSIs ready to send to the market, just so you can get in fairly quickly. And then I would have a little bit of cash set aside to see what that initial ratio is to be able to scoop up cheap Icosa. Because no matter what, this Icosa has to come from an HSI. So the fair value of it is kind of inherent to the existence of the token. And so if you can get it cheaper than what you can get it from sacrificing a hex stake for, that's just a good deal, assuming you want to get some Icosa. And then after that, it becomes a game of staking. So, put your Icosa up, put your whatever Hedron you want up, and then allow your yield to accumulate. And if you have the opportunity to, add to your stakes so that you don't get diluted as other people add to their stakes. That was a really long explanation, and I kind of word vomited it a lot there, because these are some preliminary thoughts that I've been having with some conversations I've been having with some other people. But I hope that made some sense. And we can talk about more about that later too, for sure. Let's see, crypto events. It's exciting to think that we'll be able to do this ARB separately on Pulse Chain as well. Yeah, and a lot of this ARB I think is going to be realized or closed, I should say. Like when the arbitrage opportunity hits, it's going to be closed a lot faster on Pulse Chain, just because of the gas fees that are how cheap the gas fees are. So it's going to be a lot easier to make smaller HSIs for smaller players to take advantage of the opportunity, as well as large players to make more HSIs faster to take advantage of ARB opportunities. And then I haven't thought about this exactly, but maybe there's some cool opportunities ratio trading with Icosa and Icosa, and the different ways the contract exists across both chains. And that's just something I haven't given thought about, but that's a whole extra layer of complexity that I'm really excited to dive into. Let's see. I wonder the ROI of accumulating the first days, or just wait until lower price on the market assumption. Yep. That's something I've been thinking about too. And the conclusion that I've come to is that whatever the price of Icosa is kind of on that first 30 days is almost an illusion, because in order to get that Icosa, and I said this before, but in order to get that Icosa, the liquidity provider had to pay a certain price, because they had to send Hex. They had to send an HSI to the liquidation market. So they can just choose to undercut themselves and just take the L right off the bat if they really wanted to. And that's just gain for us if we're able to do that. So yeah, I'm gonna be having some cash aside just in case I can get a good deal off Icosa off the market. Um, but I'm also gonna have HSIs ready to go ahead and sack because um, I want to be sure that I can get in on day one, and I have oh, here's something else to think about. Um, with that price going low, and I touched on it before with the minimum 30 days for Icosa to be released, but I can't see where a lot of sell pressure is going to be in this system in those first 30 days because most people are going to be trying to accumulate to stake. The only place I see sell pressure coming from are people coming in to speculate. And that is they see the price lower than that arbitrage opportunity, and then they buy it with the expectation that it's going to reach the arbitrage opportunity, and then they'll sell it higher. So that that's also a potential strategy you could have too if you just wanted to get a little profit from the system at the beginning. Um, but for the most part, like if you have Icosa in the beginning, you're gonna have to put some skin in the game, whether it's buying it off the market, which it had to come from somebody who put skin in the game by selling an HSI, or you're gonna have to sell an HSI for it. And then if you're deciding to sell that Icosa, you got to look at the opportunity cost of whatever that yield could be. And if anybody spent any time in some of the Telegram chats, Alex has done some, paper napkin math, and we could be seeing, potentially like double digit daily APR. Don't quote me on that. That's a little crazy, but it is possible. We could see, double digits pretty crazy, but maybe we see single percent daily APR where you can get 1%, 2% a day, that's pretty enticing. And you got to weigh if you actually want to participate in that staking pool and get that yield while it's available. Because as we know, as I was talking about before, and here I'll pull up the slide for that while I'm talking. But we know that the ability to get Icosa gets exponentially harder over time, just because of the way the T-share rate is embedded into the functions that mint the token. Here it is. Here's the slide. We play it, and then there we go. Yeah. And so the T-share rate is in both of the formulas that dictate the mintability of the token. And so this is kind of that, just like with Hedron, we're in that hyperinflationary period where it's the best time to buy, as Richard Hart would say. That's also going to be the case for Icosa as well, these first 30 days. Let's see. Oh, this is John. Would it be fair to say that with all the HSIs going to the liquidation happening, that might reduce the demand on HEX on the open market? This might put downward pressure on HEX until the Hedron HEX ARB. Let me see. Open market. This might put downward pressure on HEX until Hedron HEX. Yeah, that is possible. Because if you could see that you can get a HEX stake cheaper on the liquidation market just by going through and buying Hedron, that's presumably sell pressure. That's presumably buy pressure. That's not going to the HEX system. And so that downward pressure on HEX could help hit the Hedron ARB opportunity. That's definitely possible. The only thing I'd keep in mind there is that maybe there's some capital that would not have bought HEX stakes unless they could have gotten the deal that they're getting on the liquidation market. And so, like, let's say that there's money that's waiting for like 1 cent HEX right now, but they see that they can liquidate a stake for what's the equivalent of getting HEX at 1 cent right now. Maybe we never hit 1 cent, so that capital is never deployed into HEX, but then it goes into the Hedron price. So that would be a counterexample where even though there's volume going towards the liquidation auctions, it doesn't have an effect on the HEX price, or it doesn't deter capital moving into the HEX price because that capital would have never gone there in the first place unless we saw lower prices. Let's see, what else we got? Yep. A lot of possibilities. Too many for me to think about right now. Let's see, Mango. I think we've learned by now that there's always going to be sellers. Yeah, there are always going to be sellers. Even if I can't think of a way for people to get the coins to sell them, so they're going to figure out somehow to dump on our heads. It's funny. Let's see. Hydrology 101. There could be cross-chain price discrepancies in the future once Pulse Chain launches, which users could profit from by using Hedron and Icosa protocols. Yep, and using a bridge. Absolutely. And yeah, I agree, Jawa. It's good to see you in here, Vince. I'm glad to have you in the community. It's always a pleasure to see you around. All right, no problem, John. Appreciate the good question, and that's something I actually didn't think about personally. Yeah, I'm here for the tech too, man. HSIs are awesome. Screw price appreciation. Who cares about that? I just want my NFTs loosely associated with hex stakes that are loosely associated with some JPEG. That's all I'm here for. Oh man. All right. Any more questions? What else you guys got for me? Got another. I give at least another 5 minutes for any questions. What else? So hopefully Icosa launches sometime in the next couple weeks. Yeah, I know the code. Alex has put the code up on GitHub, so I'm sure people are going over that. And I think he's looking to do a testnet for a couple weeks. And so the testnet will go for a couple weeks and then launch will happen. So I guess now, maybe not July, but maybe we're looking at early to mid-August. Yes, I'm here for the tech and the veneers. I forgot to put the arbitrage opportunity between IcosaHedron Hex and the price of veneers. I'll save that for the next stream. Mango, you talking about 2 weeks for testnet to be live or 2 weeks for the launch of the of mainnet? But yeah, so I think it's pretty great that we're going to get this thing so soon. It's also cool to keep in mind, Hedron just launched like 4 months or like 4 5 months ago now. It really hasn't been that long. And now we're getting a whole new smart contract with staking features and like multiple arbitrage opportunities. And we all get the opportunity to get into the stuff on the ground floor. All before Pulse Chain even launches. The meme 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 more weeks. That was 4 more weeks, man. It's 2 more months, 4 more weeks. Hey Jawa, well, you can design those Jawa, and then maybe you can get them onto hexmerch.com. All right, guys. Oh, here's a couple more things. The bonuses copy to where all the source address would be great to keep your NFT on. Yep. So yeah, I don't know if anybody hasn't heard the news, but just like the SA gets a copy of all the launch bonuses when people mint, the We Are All the SA pool will get a copy of all of the bonuses from either the Quattro Cinco or the launch phase bonuses that you get. So a little extra yield for those who participate in that system. Hey, I appreciate that, John. I am also bullish on Icosa and Hedron. Oh, wait. No. Oh, okay. So I guess I missed that. I haven't been as involved in the zeitgeist with stuff as much. But okay, 2 more weeks, man. 2 more weeks. Let's see. Jawa. Wait till the NFT. Probably gonna make people cream. Yeah, man. I'm definitely gonna. Most of my capital is not gonna be going to the NFT. Most of my capital is gonna be accumulating Icosa to get as much of that staking pool as possible. But I'm definitely keeping a little bit off the side to get that NFT. Maybe 2 or 3 of them, just more as a collector's item than as something I actually want to cash in on and take profits on. Which just means I'll make more yield in the future if I never plan on selling or burning. So yeah. All right, guys. I think that is it for me. To all 14 of you that have stuck around me for these 40 minutes, I really appreciate it. If anybody's just tuning in, go ahead and catch the replay. Let's see what else. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share the video out. And I don't know when my next stream is going to be. It'll be sometime eventually, kind of like always. But I like always, I appreciate everybody who's come hang out with me. And I will keep in touch with you guys on Twitter, on future streams, and in all of the Telegram groups. All right. And so I will play this music on the way out and end the stream. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your night.